Hey everybody, welcome back to Mixing Music Analog and mixingmusicanalog.com, and here on my YouTube channel. And this time out, we're going to do something that you guys have been asking me to do for a while, and it's been on the list, and I'm going to do it today. We are going to test the sound or listen to the difference in sound between tracks that are just running in our DAW prior to the SSL, and then we're going to, and we did print 32 channels of audio running through the SSL back in as individual tracks, and we're going to be able to switch back and forth in AB. What does it sound like when you just run the tracks through the SSL preamps and back in with no EQ, no compression, so on and so forth? So that's what we're going to do today, so you can hear what the difference is. If you just run audio through this SSL, what does it do as far as imparting any SSL goodness on the audio? But before we get to that, if you like what you see in the video, please hit subscribe. And by the way, YouTube Analytics tells Uncle Dave that almost 70% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel, which is nuts. Please, if you're one of those 70%, please subscribe, because it really does help me. Also, make sure you check the link in the description box below for my 2 hybrid mixing courses that are now out and ready for you to consume: hybrid mixing pop rock and hybrid mixing acoustic rock. Awesome courses. Check the link in the description box below. And that's it. So here we are in front of the SSL. Let me tell you what I did quickly. I've already done this. This is the second time I'm trying to record this video. The first time we had some audio problems with my lavalier mic here, which I'm going to rectify with some new gear coming in shortly. But anyway, so I'm going to show you what I did here. And you're just going to have to trust good old Uncle Dave that the way I'm telling you this test was done is the way it was really done. You didn't see it all because we lost the video. But anyway, so what I did was, if we jump in here into Studio One, let me show you what we got going on here. So first thing, we have all these tracks in brown, 32 tracks here. This is a song by a client and friend and student of mine, Richard Couture, with Viola Fernando on vocals. This name of the song is Live Your Dream. We're going to be featuring their music on this channel a little bit more in the future. So thank you, Richard, for allowing me to use this song for this demonstration. But here we go. So in brown here, we have a full 32 tracks here. Okay, all those tracks were routed out to the SSL across all 32 long faders, okay? There is going to the preamps, hitting the preamps pretty good. We're hitting the console pretty hard, the way I typically do when I mix. There's no EQ, there's no compression, there's no high pass filters, there's no nothing. Each one of these tracks is then printed directly back in, because on the SSL Origin we have 32 direct out, so we could print all our processed tracks back in, which is something that you can do if you wanted to use this kind of as a way to just color the audio, send it back in and mix in the box. And we'll do that in future videos, in a future video. But ran it through just through the preamp on the pure drive circuit, so the more colored circuit, not the transparent circuit, but the colored circuit, and then printed them back in, and all those prints are back here in blue, okay? So the brown is the original tracks before the SSL. The blue is the print tracks after the SSL preamp. And then what I did is I went ahead and I then rerouted all the original brown tracks back to just the main output, so we're not listening to it through the SSL twice. And all the brown tracks are being routed down to a bus here on the end called original track, and I'll change the color to brown just so we can get an understanding here of what we're looking at. And then all the blue tracks are routed down to this bus here called SSL print. And I'm going to do that for you. So now what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to go back and forth between the SSL print, the original, the SSL print, and the original, so you can hear the difference of what just running the audio through the SSL preamp and printed directly back in does to the audio, if anything. I've level matched these things after I recorded the blue tracks. I went back and made sure that the volume between these two are as identical as Uncle Dave can get them. So when I listen to these things in its totality, both the brown, the original, and the prints, they sound level matched. So we're going to start off with the original. All I recorded was a verse and a chorus, I think, of this thing. I didn't record the whole song. I did a verse, a pre-chorus, a chorus, and then as we've gotten to the second verse, the loop is over, okay? So all you need to do, your job, is just keep your eye down here at the far right-hand side of the mixer here in Studio One. You'll see the solo tracks. The brown is the original prior to the SSL. The blue is the effect of the SSL of the direct prints back in. Does that make sense? Okay, here we go. And then I'm going to tell you what I'm hearing here in the room. Now, I will say you need to listen to this on a good set of studio monitors or headphones. If you listen to this on an iPhone or even earbuds or like AirPods, you might hear a little difference, but you're not going to hear a great difference, I wouldn't think. It's going to be more obvious on a better playback system, preferably headphones. But I'm going to tell you what Uncle Dave hears in the room because I don't know what the hell it's going to sound like over YouTube, so I'm just going to tell you what I hear. Okay, here we go. Start off with the original and then we'll bounce back and forth. It starts off, by the way, with just an intro piano, builds into some acoustic guitars, vocals, and then a whole drum kit kicks in. So it builds up, it's quite dynamic. So just so you know that. Here we go. Okay, so let me tell you what I hear. So when you start off at the beginning of this track where it's just a piano and then a light acoustic with a vocal, going back and forth between the original tracks and the SSL prints, it's a lot more subtle because you're only talking about a couple of tracks playing at a time. But by the time the whole band kicks in at the chorus where we have all 32 tracks, a full drum kit, bass, acoustic, electrics, pianos, lead vocals, background vocals, it gets to be a much bigger difference. What I hear here in the room is that the SSL prints are giving the whole track a more sense of width, a little bit more sense of depth and clarity. When I get that chorus kicking in, and then I go back to the original tracks prior to the SSL, it feels like it folds in and it gets kind of more, I don't want to say muffled, but the clarity isn't there. Let's listen to that. Let's start here at the pre-chorus and we'll build up to the chorus. I will start on the SSL, the blue track, and then we'll go back to the original halfway through the chorus, just so you could hear the effect. Here it is. Here's the SSL prints. I really hear it more in the drums, the snare, the toms. It feels like it has a little bit more clarity on the SSL on the blue track than it does on the brown. Again, it's not wildly different. It's like, oh my God, it's such an amazing thing, but it is a difference. The biggest thing that surprised me was the sense of width. I guess that surprised me more than anything else. The tonality, sure. From an EQ perspective, because there's no EQs on the original tracks and there's no EQ being applied here, all you're getting is any tonal aspect that the preamp and or the electronics in the SSL, you know, are giving it, and it gives it a little bit more clarity. But I was really surprised at the width of the SSL prints, as well as, I want to say, the separation of the instruments. Like, I feel like the drums seem like a little more separated and everything has a little bit more clarity and things are a little bit more well heard, as opposed to the originals, which seems like when you go to the originals, everything kind of collapses and kind of smushes together. Does that make sense? One more time and then we'll end this video. Here it is, starting with the SSL, and then we will go back and forth a few times. Here we go.
As deep as I can see, this dream is still in me. Even if all I try seems to put me out of rhyme. Facing all closed doors, my heart needs me to open more. Then I pre-dream land and wait for help to understand.
Okay, so there's the difference. So again, there's a sense of depth in there as well. So for people that are ever wondering, if anyone's ever wondering, well, what does it sound like? What does the SSL or a console just in general do to the audio? Before you start adding all the bus compressor and all the racks of gear and everything else, what does just running it through the desk have an effect? What effect does it have on the audio? There's what it has. Again, it's not like miles apart, but there's definitely more width, a little more depth, a little bit more clarity, and I even hear on the kick drum a little bit more attack on the kick and the snare on the SSL print. So that's what the SSL is doing to the audio. Now, if you're new to working hybrid or new to working analog, or you don't know anything about working analog and you stumbled across this video, and you may have heard people say, well, as you run audio through different pieces of hardware, analog gear, all those every time you run a piece of audio through electronics, it adds a little something or a little bit of artifacts, a little bit of harmonic distortion, a little bit of secret sauce, if you will, to the audio. So when you only run it on a couple of tracks, if you just tested this where we just did the piano or just did the acoustic guitar side by side, you wouldn't hear much of a difference. It's an accumulative effect thing. When you get it across all 32 tracks, it becomes much more obvious. That's why you hear it more in the chorus than you do in the intro and in the verse. Right? Because we have all the instruments playing in the chorus, and all those little 5 or 10% are compounding and adding up. Now, if you fast forward and you think a little bit forward down the line, well, what does that mean as you start adding a bunch of analog gear? This is where the difference is. So now if you took this mix, and we will in another video on this channel, and we put, 10 or 15 different pieces of gear on this, whether it's compressors, EQs, saturators, stereo wideners, a bus compressor, you can understand how it becomes a real compound effect. And the accumulative effect of all of that is what the difference between the sound of analog and the sound of strictly digital in the box. And then the next question is, well, if you took all that gear, Dave, and you just use all my plugin emulations from third-party manufacturers, how close does that sound? Or, Dave, what would happen if we just used an SSL channel strip instead of your SSL, and then compared a channel strip on those original tracks, just using the preamp to that? What would be the difference? That's a great question, and we're going to do that in another video. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Leave comments below. Let me know what you heard, and let me know what other kinds of experiments like this you want me to bring in the future, because I like sharing this stuff with you, and I like learning myself. Now make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you're part of the 70% that's not subscribed to Uncle Dave and Mixing Music Analog, what's the matter you? My grandma used to say, what's the matter you? Hit that subscribe button. It helps me out tremendously. You have no idea how much it helps me, especially when you cats want to see new gear and gear reviews and all of that. I got to reach out to these manufacturers and say, hey, send me a piece of gear so I can show my subscribers what this stuff sounds like and how it reacts. And the only way they send me that gear for you to get a chance to hear my opinion and do a review for you is if we have eyeballs and subscribers on these videos and on this channel. So if you want more demonstrations such as this and you like what I'm doing here for you and you're finding it entertaining, please hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. And until the next video, I've been David, Mixing Music Analog at mixingmusicanalog.com. Don't forget to check the hybrid mixing courses. Link will be in the description box below, and trust me, those will be the best mixing courses you have ever taken, I promise, even if you don't use a console and a single piece of hardware, because I show you how to do it all with plugins too. See you in the next video.